Good afternoon. On behalf of the Georgia State Alumni Association, I want to thank you for tuning in to today's program titled The 90-Day Quantum Career Leap. My name is Ellen Kinsey, and I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Programs. We are thrilled to have the opportunity to deliver this useful content to our alumni who are really searching for ways to advance their careers and quickly. So let's jump right in, and I'll introduce our speaker and proud alum, Andrea Holyfield. Andrea is a transformative career management and transition coach with more than a decade of coaching, consulting, and training experience. She is a sought-after facilitator on topics such as brand management, networking, and navigating change. Throughout her career, Andrea has helped thousands of people find rewarding work and facilitated hundreds of branding and career-related trainings, including some past programs with alumni which have been very popular. Her diverse background includes experience in nonprofit, corporate outplacement, and higher education. Andrea holds a master's in professional counseling from Georgia State University. Andrea, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Ellen. It's always a pleasure to be back home.
Well, I'll go ahead and pull your presentation up and we can dive right in. I'm going to step behind the curtain, and then I just want our audience to know if you have any questions throughout the program, Andrea will take those in real time. So don't hesitate, use the ask a question below, the button below, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you. All right. So as I mentioned, I am honored to be here with you and share this content around a quantum career leap. We have a short period of time together, and so I'm going to jump right into content. But as Ellen mentioned, if you have questions along the way, feel free to stop me. Don't wait until we get to the end to ask your question, because if you're thinking it, someone else is thinking it as well. The agenda for today is very simple. Ellen's already done a great introduction. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me, and then we're going to jump into some definitions and some steps. And because I'm a coach, there's homework. You can't work with a coach without having something that you're strengthening or you're working on or you're perfecting. And so I'll make sure that you walk away with some tangible pieces that you can introduce today to start to work on your quantum career leap. Now, you've heard about my background. You know that I'm a career coach. You know that I've helped thousands of people navigate their career. I thought I'd add a little bit of content here and just let you know that I'm also a level 2 Reiki practitioner. I'm also an herbalist, and I share that with you so that you understand my approach with career management, career transition, and just transformation as a whole. I'm a holistic transition professional, and so I'm going to talk to you in this next 35 minutes in a way that you probably have not heard other career management professionals talk about change. I've just done this work enough to understand that we have to look at the whole person, the whole process, and the entire environment when we discuss career transition, especially for those of us that want to transition quickly. So with that said, some of this is going to be new. Some of this is going to be different. Take notes. I'm assuming that you already have your tablets or your notebooks out and you're taking notes. And if you have questions, stop me. We're in a place where you can stop me along the way. Okay, so I have a question for you because I, of course, want this to be interactive. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you right now in your job? Put a number in comments and let me know. How happy are you with your work? Now, 1 is totally dissatisfied. 10 is through the moon happy. This is my dream job. And I'm imagining if you took the time to be present in this call, in this space today, I probably don't have a lot of 9s and 10s, but I'm just wondering how many 1s and 2s and 3s we have. Because of the work that I do, I'm probably a little bit biased because I believe that there are many people that are unhappy with their work, but they just don't know how to get unstuck. They don't know what to do to transition. They feel like there has to be something out there, but they just have no idea what that thing is. A lot of us are doing what we've always done. and that starts to feel a bit of crazy. So I see some fives and some sevens, which is actually on the higher end. We're kind of like, things are okay. There's probably something better out there for me. There's probably somewhere else I can go, but I'm not miserable. I didn't see any ones or twos or threes. And so there, you may not have the urgency, the ones and twos and threes and maybe the fours, they have this urgency. Oh, there's a zero. So I'm probably talking to you. You're probably the person who is thinking about this quantum leap. So a quantum leap is defined as a huge, often sudden increase or an advance in something. When we think about a quantum leap, we're not thinking about this practical experience. When I'm working with a client on a quantum leap, we're not saying, okay, well, in the next 2 years, I'd like to. This is the person who says, I need to go. This isn't working for me. I need more out of life. I want to do something bigger. I want to do something better. That's the person who wants to experience the quantum leap. Maybe they need more money now. They realize that they lowballed themselves a couple of positions ago, and now every time they negotiate, they're negotiating based on that lower salary. Or maybe they've never negotiated and they're wanting to get caught up. They know that they're operating outside of their market value. An activity for some of you to do today is to figure out whether or not you are being paid appropriately based on your market value. Use a tool like payscale.com or salary.com. Input your information, your years of experience, your degree, your title, and get an idea if you are being paid appropriately for the work that you're doing. A lot of people that come to me wanting to do the quantum leap based on finances, they realize that they are not being paid appropriately for their current work, or that they want to live a life that requires a different financial standing and they need to quickly get to that space. So they're quantum leaping because of the money. Some people quantum leap with me because of the title. They've been operating as a manager. I've got one client who was a manager for years and years and then said, you know what, I really want more of a leadership role. I've let so many years go by while my peers were advancing in their career and I was kind of operating this way. I was taking lateral moves instead of looking at opportunities to grow in my career. So she wanted to quantum leap. She didn't want to continue to be the person who was accepting these lateral positions. We were able to work together for 5 months, and her quantum leap was going from a content manager to a vice president in 5 months. And so that's what I mean by quantum leaping. It's this huge, sudden increase in something. And that increase may not be finances. It may not be title. It may not be taking on bigger work. It may be an increase in happiness. So there may be someone on the call that's thinking, my quantum leap, where I like to go, what I like to see next is really being able to have more fulfillment in my day-to-day work. I'm doing a job that I can do. I don't love it, but I can do it. I would like to leap into a role that makes my heart sing. I'd like to do more of what I love. And I don't know what that path is, and I don't want to take tiny steps into that. I want to jump into that now. So this is what we're talking about today, just to make sure that you're on the right call. If any of those things align with what you're thinking, that's the quantum career leap. And that's the plan that I'm going to give you the 5 steps for now to make sure that you understand what's involved in a quantum leap. Because I've done career transition for a very long time, and I can talk to you about how to find a job, but that's not necessarily the primary goal of our conversation today. So in a short period of time, I want to tell you how to go from here to here. And so there's 5 really quick, easy steps that we'll jump into. And the step 1 is getting really clear on what you want to do. The mistake that I see a lot of job seekers make is that their focus is on what they don't want. So when you come to me, you're saying, I'm in this role, I'm miserable, I don't like this work, I'm not being taken seriously, I don't have a seat at the table, I'm not using my skills in the right way, I'm not operating in my zone of excellence. So you have all of the things that you don't want and all that negativity, right? But you don't have a clear vision of what you'd like to do. Whenever I ask that question, people stop and they pause because they've been operating in this low vibration for so long that it's difficult to imagine actually doing work that you love. But that's a very important step if you're wanting to transition quickly. Because if you transition quickly without clarity, you end up 9 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, unhappy again. And there's probably someone on this call that's done that. They, had this job, didn't like the job, decided to do something differently. Less than a year in, you're thinking, what did I get myself into? This is more of the same, or this is just a different kind of crazy, right? Like this isn't good either. So that vision is extremely important. And the way that you get clear on what you like to quantum leap into is to do some reflection, is to network, talk to people, really visit what that job might look like, and step outside of titles. A lot of times you think about, well, I want this type of role. And that's the right way to think about it. When you start to get stuck with titles, I'm looking for a marketing director role. You may miss opportunities because there are other titles that would be more in alignment with the type of work that you want to do. So an activity that you might want to do today, if you need help with your vision clarity, is to just write down a job description. Make yourself a job description. What are the activities that you like to see yourself doing on a consistent basis? And don't focus on what you can do, because a lot of us have things that we can do, skills that we have that we don't really care to use. They don't really make us feel good. It's not exciting. It's not heart-centered. And so really just write yourself your ideal job description. That's going to help you to gain some clarity on the direction that you want to go. Once you have that, you've heard the expression before to dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. And it's so super simple, but there is something to that. And I really want to encourage you to think about how you show up and whether or not you're showing up as the person who would have that job that you just wrote out in that job description. So write that job description out and then think about how you're showing up, what skills you're utilizing, how you communicate, what your presence, your physical presence is like, your attitude, your energy, how you're vibrating in communication with other leaders or recruiters or people that you're talking to. You really want to embody the person that's going to do the work. And that's difficult to do, again, if we're so focused on the negative pieces. And so I want you to think about an actor. When an actor takes a role, the actor studies the role, they study the character, they try to mirror the characteristics of the character that they're playing. You've heard of actors going to live in a particular area so that they can really fill out what it means to be that person. That's the work that I'm going to ask you to do now. If you do that work before you land that dream job, it also helps with that little thing called imposter syndrome. How many of you have heard of the term imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is, when we get that role, we take that position, we land in that job, and then we're thinking, I don't know that I deserve to be here. I don't know if I really know what I need to show up here. I think that eventually they're going to figure out that I'm not really qualified to do this job. Have any of you ever had that experience? It's a very common phenomenon called imposter syndrome. And so if you start to embody your future role before you step into it, it really helps you to understand who you have to be to feel successful in that space. Okay. Just stopping for a second, just pausing. I get excited when I talk about this. And so I want to make sure that I'm not missing questions that you have. Are we clear on step 1 and step 2? Do we feel like those are things that we understand the concepts and we can do? Let me know if you have questions, and I can slow down or back up. Okay, so step 3, remember there are 5 steps that I'm going to share with you. 5 steps if you're wanting to quantum leap in your career. We've gone through step 1 and 2. Step 3 is reinvention. So what often happens when I'm working with a client who wants to do something just totally bold and audacious and different, or that wants to just stop and pivot and just take a new direction and do work that they just have only imagined doing, is that their tangibles don't align with that mental space that they're in. And by tangibles, I'm referring to their resume, their LinkedIn, their marketing plan, their value propositions. If these are new terms for you, these are things that you probably want to do a little research on to make sure that you have the collateral that you need when stepping into that big role. But not only do you have it, but is it in alignment? Does it speak to the person that you're becoming, the role that you want, the job that you're attracting, this new career that you'd like to step into? Or is it very focused on what you've done in the past? Is it extremely narrowly focused? And it's sticky because working in my field, I talk to people all of the time who say things like the best indicator of future success is past success. And so because of that, job seekers, we feel like, okay, well, I have to apply for jobs that are like what I've done. And I have to demonstrate that I've done this job in order for someone to take me seriously. But I want to challenge that thought process for a second. How many of you have worked for people and thought to yourself, how in the world did she get this job? Like, she has no idea what she's talking about. Like, how many of you have worked under someone and thought, I know more than he does. How is he the boss, right? How many of you have questioned how someone else stepped into their role? I want to encourage you to use that same energy to push yourself into yours. If someone else can walk into a role and you don't feel like they have the background, the experience, the knowledge to do that job, understand that the same is possible for you. You can step into a role without having years of experience, without having, all of the certifications, all of the degrees, all of the line items on the job description. You can step into that role if you've done the work to reinvent yourself and to align with the opportunity. Again, embodying that role, being in that environment, expanding your network so you're talking to people who do that work so that you can start to take on that vocabulary and integrate that into your collateral. That's going to be extremely important in this process of quantum leaping. It's going to take a long time to do something you've never done if you feel like you have to build up this huge case to prove that you can do it. The belief is in yourself, and then getting a couple of advocates in your corner through networking, and then updating your documents, your LinkedIn, your cover letters, your marketing plan, your value props, your bios, to fall in line with the direction that you want to go. Okay? Yes, Olivia. You've had that experience. Absolutely. We all have. We've all had that experience where we're like, what in the world is going on? But instead of using that as fuel, we let that deflate us. I know I did. I know that I've worked in positions where I was like, I just feel overwhelmed because I'm reporting to people that really don't get this job, that really don't know what they're doing. And you can get deflated instead of saying, this is evidence that you literally can have whatever job you want. That if you have the right process and you make the right connections and you do the work, you can transition, and you don't have to have 20 years of experience to do that. But we tell ourselves that. And we do that, I think, as a safety net so that we don't feel, so that we don't take those risks and we don't jump and we don't leap, But this conversation is about leaping. And so when you leap, you have to have a mindset that states, I can have anything that I want. I literally can do and go wherever I want as long as I'm willing to follow the process. Okay. So step 4, we're in 5 steps here. And so we've gone through 3 and I don't see questions. So I'm going to keep going on to step 4. And that's your communication strategy. I want you to start to see yourself as a product. And with any product, there's an amount of advertising that has to go on and it has to be consistent. So once you have reinvented yourself and you have this packaging and you've thought about the work that you like to do, you need to make sure that the right person knows who you are, that you're communicating in the right spaces, and that you're communicating consistently. Right? Because there's so much noise. Just think about your social media presence and you log on, and if I log on to Instagram, 10 people are going live at the same time, and there's all this content, and you have to be heard. And so you want to be heard in the spaces where recruiters, hiring managers, senior level professionals in your field, where are they? Do you know that yet? Because a lot of times when I talk to job seekers, you're telling me, well, I'm applying for 5 jobs a day. I'm unhappy in this job, so I'm looking for another job, but it's not getting me anywhere. Have you heard the statistics that less than 10% of people actually find their jobs online? Less than 10% of job seekers find their jobs on Glassdoor, Career Builder, Monster, those job boards. So I want you to think about the return on your investment. If you're spending hours and hours applying for a job and you have less than 10% of a chance of actually landing that job, is that smart? Or is that insane? Because insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So where do you find the results? You find the results in networking and communicating your value consistently. Making sure that every day you're having conversations with people that can open doors for you, that can give you information, that can advocate for you, that can teach you and train you. Like, how are you communicating your value? Write that down as a question. What am I doing right now to communicate my value, and how consistently am I doing that? If there are holes, if it's inconsistent, or if you don't know the answer to that question, you're missing a very important step in your career transition. So if you're wanting to quantum leap, if you're wanting to land that dream job quickly, you have to speak consistently to your strengths and your values. Okay? How many of you network consistently right now? And by consistently, I mean, are you daily communicating, sharing, talking, learning in a way that will contribute to your career growth? If you are going to work, you're miserable, and you're checking out afterwards, and every now and then you're hopping on LinkedIn, liking a couple posts and applying for a job, you are not communicating your value consistently. You have to have a strategy. You have to have a communication strategy if you're wanting to do this quickly. We all can change jobs. We can always just look for another job and just apply from time to time. But a strategy will get you there faster. Okay? Step 5, you'll need to develop a transition plan. So what do I mean by that? I want you to really think about, even as a result of this call, how long do you want to be in transition? When do you see yourself occupying this new role? Based on what we've talked about today, how much runway do you need to get yourself in a position where you're talking to people daily, where you're embodying your new role, where you even have some idea of what that new role is going to look like? Give yourself a date. Put a date on the calendar. I love goals that are time bound. I love the SMART goal idea where we have a time bound goal. And if you tell yourself, I want to be in my new position in 6 months, in 4 months, in 3 months, then you can work backwards and you can say, well, based on that, here's this ideal job description. Let me go out there and find what resembles that because they may have a different title than I think. And now let me work backwards to create this identity for myself that allows me to transition into that role. I've got to get everything in alignment. How quickly am I going to move? How aggressive am I going to attack this transition? That's all in the planning. Okay, what types of positions am I going to go for? What's the salary that I'm interested in? What's the industry? All of that is in the plan. The plan is important because, as you all know, if you just start by just doing anything, then when the time comes that you're getting the offers and when things are presenting themselves to you, you're panicked because you don't really know if it's a good offer. You don't know if there's room to negotiate. You don't know if you want to work in this industry. Like, you have all of these questions because you haven't taken the time to think through them ahead of time. So that career transition plan is extremely important. You want to develop that, and you want to develop that in relationship with the time that you've given yourself to transition. Now, if you identify that there's something that you want to do that requires something outside of your hands, like, maybe the job does require that you have a certain certification or that you have a certain skill. Now you need to go on to, LinkedIn or some sort of learning management system and gain that skill. And it's going to take you 18 months or it's going to take you 12 months. Then you create your transition plan with that in mind. That I'm going to start doing all of the other things and getting everything else in alignment so that when I pull the trigger, once I'm ready to make that announcement, I already have people interested in me. I've already been communicating my value, and they now know that I am ready to go. The reason why so few people find their jobs online is because most of the people are utilizing this hidden job market. They're talking to people. Positions are being kind of sent their way. They're being created for them. They're being told about opportunities before they're ever posted online. And so you, in communicating your value, will aid your transition plan because you'll already have people lined up that know what you do. So a question came in, what do you mean by communication strategy? LinkedIn, blogging, social media, all of the above. So your communication strategy is what you're going to do consistently to be in front of the people, the right person, the decision makers. So step one is figuring out where they are. For me, for example, LinkedIn, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. And that's because the people that are in the career management space and career transition space, they're on LinkedIn. So once I've identified my brand and who I want to get in front of, then I'm going to do the work to communicate consistently. So yes, LinkedIn, yes, social media, blogging, that's going to just depend on, I don't know what your area of interest is. And so blogging isn't something that everyone needs to do. But then the piece that I didn't hear in that question, that communication strategy question, was the people. So it's the networking, it's talking to people on a consistent basis that can open doors for us, that can do things, that can give us insight. Everyone on this call, if you're thinking about a job as that ideal career, that ideal next move, you should have a target list of companies. Where are the companies that I'd like to go because I like their product or their mission and vision, or I like geographically where they're located? I mean, whatever your reason is your reason. But you should have a list of target companies, and then you should start networking your way into those companies. The slow way to transition is to say, I like to work for Coca-Cola, so I'm going to keep checking Coca-Cola's job board, and when there's a position that I qualify for, I'm going to apply for the job. That's the slow way. The quantum leap way is to say, I like to work for Coca-Cola. This is the role that I see myself transitioning to. I'm going to start embodying that role here in my present position. I'm going to network my way into that company. I'm going to build a strong network of people around me so that the energy around my name is so high that when they think about this skill, they say, I've been talking to someone that does this. I know someone. That is the most powerful line in the job search process. I know someone, right, who does this. Transitioning works faster when someone's reaching out to you and bringing you back than when you're looking for the right opportunity and then trying to make yourself a fit after the fact. Okay. So another question came in. I'm curious about what a value proposition looks like or entails. Are there various items within that term that are needed or required for a business professional? Your value proposition, the most simple way to define that is really, what do you bring to the table? What are your skills and how are you different than others? So what's the different thing? Do you speak another language? Do you have some sort of international experience? Do you have a particular skill that a lot of people in your industry don't have? Do you have this background, this bachelor's degree that has nothing to do with the work that you've been doing, but it informs your learning in a particular way? You can Google value proposition. It's a tool that I coach my clients on. It's very beneficial. It's something that you can give someone even before you're in the interview process. It just helps them understand your value in a different way than a resume can. What do you recommend for someone who wants to network but has anxiety doing it? So I'm going to give you two ideas around that, my professional and my personal idea around anxiety. One of the things that I would say on the professional side is start really close to home. So remove the word network and just think about having conversations and give yourself a goal of how many conversations you'd like to have. Maybe you want to start off with, I'm going to have 2 per week, or 1 per week, just something that's not super scary, and then build on that and start close to home. Have conversations with people that you used to work with or people that are in your family that are doing things that maybe you don't talk to that very often, but you just want to call them up and ask them about their work. Start safe. And every time you have one of those conversations, ask them, who would you suggest that I reach out to? Who's someone that I could talk to that maybe could help me to help inform me a bit more in this area? And you're going to trust that that person who knows you and cares about you and, whatever, they understand who you are, that they're going to then introduce you to someone that they trust you to have a conversation with. And right now, with a lot of us being on lockdown, we're all on Zoom and we're all on the phone. So it takes out that, meeting someone for coffee or tea, and we can have that conversation. So start close to home, build out, start with people that you know, and don't network, just have conversations. Have conversations about the work you do, the work you like to do, the work that they do. In the beginning, when I first started networking, I would just ask them to talk about themselves. Like, I didn't even want to talk about me. And there's so much value in that because people love talking about themselves. And so I was like a student sitting at their feet. Tell me more. I want to learn about your career. I want to learn about what you've done, what you value. And people enjoy that and they like helping others. So I would say that on the professional side. On the personal side, I have a daughter who has some social anxiety. And one of the tools that we've used to help her now that she's a teenager and, she's forced in many ways to have some socialization, which I think is important, is I encourage her to act as if. So we have this big event coming up and she's like, I'm nervous. She literally has physical symptoms connected to her anxiety. My stomach is hurting and I'm sweating and I don't want to do this. And so I will work with her to act as if, and that just means I would challenge her to think, how would you show up in this space if you weren't fearful? How would you show up if you didn't have anxiety around going? What would a brave person do in this moment? And And we would talk through that. And then I would say, okay, so you're going to go and you're just going to pretend while you're networking. For the person that asked that question, you're going to pretend for 30 minutes while you're on this networking call that you're not afraid. Just pretend, because the brain operates based on evidence. And so if you can get through a couple of those 30-minute calls pretending that you're not anxious, pretending that you're comfortable in this space, then your brain eventually cognitively shifts to say, you know what? I didn't die. I wasn't super nervous. I didn't say anything too crazy. We all stumble. We all say something that we look back and say, oh, why did I say that? Right? But I survived it. And if I survived it twice, I can survive it the third time. And it just gets a little more comfortable every time. So if I can give you any words of encouragement, I'll tell you that I'm doing this with my teenager, and it does work to give yourself the opportunity to prove yourself wrong. Because what's happening in that moment of anxiety is you are thinking about all of the possibilities that could negatively affect that interaction. And so I just want you to see that that's not going to happen. Okay, so last comment, because of time. I appreciate the questions coming in. Let's see. Oh, okay. So that was just a comment, not a question. Comment was that that's a great tip for informational interviews. Yes, just sit at their feet and and learn everything that you can, and you'll be amazed at how many times you have an informational interview with someone, or you have a conversation with someone, and then something happens, and then they'll say, you know what, you and I just talked about this and I learned about this, or someone asked me about this. It's the way that the energy works, that when you're top of mind, when you've had that conversation, people are more aware of your needs and they are tuned into that because they've spoken with you, and then they can help you. They can send things your way to be beneficial for you. Listen, I hope that this was helpful for you. I really wanted to make sure that you can start today in quantum leaping this year. The steps really quickly, getting that clarity, embodying the role, go to market with your branding and your job search strategy, and then make the change. My information has been scrolling, so if I can be of assistance to you after this, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to continue the conversation.
Andrea, I just wanted to say again, thank you for doing this for our alumni. We got a lot of engagement, and I'm glad. I think that a lot of people have found this really helpful, and I just appreciate you sharing so openly and approaching all of this with a very holistic, approach, and it's just really refreshing, and we appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.